I'm a 26-year-old female, and my boyfriend is 28. We have been dating for 2 years before I met Sophia. I met Sophia at my yoga class. We were next to each other for 2 sessions before we introduced ourselves to each other. Few sessions later, we became close friends, and we would get some food after our yoga workout. Sophia was so adventurous and interesting. Come to find out, she was into alternative lifestyle. Her and her husbands were practicing open marriage. Sophia was 26 years old. She had a 3-year-old son with her husband. When Sophia told me about her open marriage, I was sort of judgmental about it. I was like, how did you get your husband to agree with you having sex with other people? She said he doesn't approve when she does it on her own. Normally they would do it with one or more couple and have some predetermined boundaries. I went home that day and that was all I could think about. I have been dating my boyfriend for 2 years then. I love my boyfriend, but our bedroom life was getting boring. When we started our relationship, we used to do it every day, but now we would be lucky to get at least 2 per week. The problem wasn't from his end, it was from me. I was having problems being in the mood, and it was starting to feel like a chore to me. I had it in my head that this may be something we needed to do in order to spice up our relationship, but I didn't know how my boyfriend would feel about it. Every time I talked to Sophia, she would be going on about the new couple that they met. I was so surprised that there were so many swinger communities, and not many people I've heard about. She always seemed happy and excited. I asked her what if her husband becomes jealous. She responded that he would have been jealous if she was independently going on her own and meeting guys. But she's the one finding couples, and he would make the decision whether they swing with them or not. That gives him the illusion of control. She also stated that her husband was the one that introduced her to the lifestyle. She doesn't do BJ, swallow, or take it from the back door. I was curious why Sophie wasn't pressuring me to swing with them. In a strange way, I felt insecure, thinking that maybe I didn't make the cut. It bothered me, but I didn't ask her about it, although I wanted to ask her. When I went home that day, I spoke to my boyfriend about Sophia's lifestyle. He didn't react with any curiosity like I did. I didn't inquire if he would be interested in that sort of lifestyle. One evening, after I had lunch with Sophia, she invited me to a wild party with 3 couples. She told me that I don't have to do anything. All I had to do was watch. I was nervous, but jumped at the idea of watching people do it in front of me. It was a voyeur experience that I didn't expect to entertain. She asked me to invite my boyfriend. All we would do is watch, but I told her that my boyfriend wasn't ready for that. I drove to the meetup location where the party was supposed to take place. The house belongs to one of the couples. It was a single-family home in an affluent neighborhood. The house was well decorated with pictures of their kids and dogs on the wall. I didn't know what kind of people I was expecting, but they looked normal in their early to mid-30s and could pass themselves off as decent Americans. All 3 couples were present on the scene, including Sophia and her husband were there. The mood was festive and cordial, like a 1970s hippie get-together. They started playing some house music. No hard liquor were present, just wine and champagne. No drugs. They had a space in the middle of the living room that is large enough to fit 4 beds. I was having a normal conversation with one of the males before I started hearing moaning noises coming from the other room. Everyone just carried on their conversation like it was no big deal. The guy I was speaking with soon left to watch another couple getting it on the sofa. Before you know it, it was all pandemonium, and I sat at the corner and watched, like I was watching a live show on Broadway. I was extremely aroused, and although I was shy, I would have joined if they have asked. When I went home that night, I ragdolled my husband like I have never done before. I had the best night of my life with him. The thought of having multiple men at the same time drove me wild, and that was all I thought about when he was inside of me. All the symphony of arousal stemmed from the event I witnessed earlier. Now I knew why she wouldn't stop talking about it. I was captivated. I wanted to be part of that community, and I wanted my boyfriend to be there with me. I witnessed how polite everybody was, and how respectful it was, how genuine everybody was, and it gives me butterflies in my stomach. The next time I met Sophie, I told her that I would like my boyfriend to join us, but I didn't know how to bring up the topic with him. I asked Sophie for some advice, and she wanted to meet with my boyfriend in person. I showed her pictures of him, and she thought he was cute. I invited Sophie to dinner one evening, and she was dressed to kill. My boyfriend already knew Sophie was into that lifestyle, so he was interested in meeting her, although he tried to hide it. I noticed by how my boyfriend looked at Sophie that he was into her. After Sophie left, before we went to bed, I asked my boyfriend whether he would be interested in doing it with Sophie. He looked at me for a second and said, of course. I asked him how he would feel if I had sex with Sophie's husband. He said, I guess if I'm doing it with his wife, then I would understand why he wanted to do it with you. The following week, I invited Sophie for dinner again, and my boyfriend was all over her, but she kept keeping her distance. That was the plan, to get him salivating over the idea of being with Sophie. I felt kind of jealous, but the idea of exploring many other guys with my boyfriend's permission was something I looked forward to, and the sex with my boyfriend after the party was one for the record books, and I would want to repeat that. After Sophie left, my boyfriend wouldn't stop asking me about opening up our relationship. It was such a good plan. Not only was he into it, we also made it seem like it was his idea, so he wouldn't feel like I forced him into it when he sees me doing it with another guy. The following week, we were invited to a 6-couple party, including us, 5 other men and women. I was surprised how much my boyfriend was into it. During the orgy, we didn't even make eye contact throughout the night. He was so into other women. On our drive home, I saw that he enjoyed it, maybe a little too much. I was only intimate with 3 of the guys, but he had all 5 of the women, including Sophie. I felt jealous about it. From then on, that's all he talked about. Our bedroom life grinded to a halt. We went from 2 times a week to 0. The only time we had intimacy was with other couples. What annoyed me most during the orgies was how he was showing off. He would try to become the star of every party we go to. He was doing too much. He would make sure he was intimate with all the women at the party. I felt like he was getting too carried away. I felt like I was losing him. He was still the love of my life. Although I was meeting and being intimate with all these great guys, I still wanted us to spend the rest of our lives together, and I wanted us to start a family soon. 7 months in and countless parties with other couples and my boyfriend, I decided that we should call it quits, so we would start a family together. I wasn't getting any younger, and most of the couples we came across had kids already. 2 weeks after we decided to stop, I found out that he was sneaking behind my back to do it with other women. At some point, it seemed he wasn't as sure about me as I was about him. Even at that point, my mind never thought about a breakup. But one day, out of nowhere, he said, "Let's break up." I thought it was a joke. We didn't even fight or quarrel. Although I caught him lying about sleeping with other women after we decided to stop. Despite that, I didn't yell at him or threaten to break up with him because of it. He just woke up one morning and decided he didn't want me anymore. And that was it. How could something this beautiful and calm come to an end just like that? I blamed myself for introducing open relationship to him. I tried to stop him from leaving. My effort didn't work. I asked Sophie and other couples to talk to him, and he wouldn't listen to anyone. He made his decision and he stuck to it. I realized I was fighting a losing battle, so I put down my apology armor and decided to move on too. It wasn't easy for me, but I had to learn to let him go bit by bit each day. I went around looking for someone to replace him, I even cut contact with Sophie and other couples. I was looking for someone like my boyfriend. I couldn't find anyone who understood me the way he did. I kept looking for traces of him in the men who approached me. I searched their faces for resemblance. I listened to them laugh just to see if their laughter sounded like him. I wondered if they could speak the language of my soul the way he did. I grieved what I've lost for weeks, and it affected my job. My friends and family came to my aid when the going got tough. They helped me get back to my feet. When I had healed completely, I decided to stay off relationship for a while, but my friends wouldn't hear of it. They told me, "You're not getting any younger. Very soon, you will have to settle down with someone. You have to date someone before you get to that point. The earlier you start, the better. You just have to be very cautious out there and cut ties with people in that crazy community." I took the advice and entered the dating arena again, but this time with a guarded heart. I went out with a couple of guys, but I never really saw myself committing to any of them. One day I was coming back from lunch when I saw a married man that I swinged with when I was still with my boyfriend. We only did it once, so we didn't know each other that well. We started talking, and he told me that last week my boyfriend and Sophie came to a party together. I was shocked when he told me that, but I acted like I was already aware of it. I couldn't believe Sophie would betray me like that. I felt sick to my stomach, and he asked me if I was alright. I said I was fine. We cut our conversation short. He wanted my number, so I exchanged numbers, and I went back to work. I called my ex-boyfriend and confronted him about it. That was when he told me that he was still swinging and joined Sophie occasionally. I remember Sophie lied about her husband allowing her to swing alone. I found out that her husband doesn't mind her going without him. I confronted Sophie and she apologized, saying that she's not exclusive with my ex-boyfriend and that he didn't leave me for her and that she's still with her husband. I felt betrayed by her, and I told her never to contact me again. My experience with my ex-boyfriend and Sophie had marred me. I couldn't just be in the moment anymore. Even though my ex left me, I was still interested in what he was doing. I was still curious about his lifestyle. I felt like we had a connection that can't easily be broken. Once he gets the fog of swinging out of his system, he would come back to me. One day, out of the blue, I called the married man to get more information about him. We started talking and getting close to each other. I was feeling lonely and wanted to be intimate with someone. I thought since I had already been intimate with him, it would be easier to just be friends with benefit with him. Moreover, he's a married man and wouldn't get too emotional. I was hoping I would end things with him as soon as I found someone worthy of me. I told myself, I'm only enjoying his company and nothing else. I won't get involved with him because he's married. But each day came with something new, something that sort of swayed my mind away from my mantra. I didn't know how and when it happened. By the time I realized we were dating, not just dating, but I was deeply in love with him. I often ask myself, what changed? How on earth did I fall in love with a married man? What kind of mess is this? I would tell myself. I would tell you. It was the kind of mess I enjoy and later felt very bad about it. At the initial stage of our love affair, I told him that he should stop swinging, and he agreed to only be intimate with me and his wife. That was what he told me, although I had no way of making sure that he wasn't swinging. I told him, promise me, that all this will come to an end one day when I meet someone I love and have a future with. And then one day, my ex-boyfriend came crawling back into my life. He came smelling of regrets. He apologized for what happened, how he left me when I needed him the most, and how he didn't listen to me when I pleaded for him to stay. I told him that I was partly to blame for opening up our relationship. We always had that strong connection, so it was easy for us to pick back where we left off. He's more mature now than he was when we were together. He talked about settling down with me as soon as possible. and everything he does shows that he's ready to settle down. I spoke to the married man in my life. I said, "My ex is back in my life. He didn't come to play this time. He promised to build a family with me. As we discussed some time ago, I think the day has come for us to end this thing that we have." He said, "Oh, that's good. I'm happy for you. But you have to be careful with him this time around. Test the waters before you dive in." That's all I wanted. To come to an agreeable end. To part ways without a fight. To have the opportunity to switch from loving a married man to loving someone that I can call my own. I broke up with him, but it looks like matters of the heart ain't as easy as ABCD. The people we give a piece of ourselves to is not that easy to let go of. The legend of the old flame is true, so I can't seem to let go of the married man. I am deeper in love with him than I thought. To make matters worse, his marital status doesn't bother me. When I sleep with my boyfriend, I dream of doing it with not just the married man, but with multiple men. That was the only way my boyfriend could get me to finish. It doesn't bother me that he may still be into that lifestyle. I get jealous sometimes because I know he was lying to me about it. I still sleep with the married man and don't feel guilty about it anymore. My conscience is seared. I have tried different ways to let go. Sometimes I turn my mind not to care, but immediately I see him, my mind behave as if the turning didn't work. We see each other almost every day. We work in the same complex. That was the major challenge for me now. I know I don't have any chance with him, yet he has become something that I can't live without. I've tried so many ways to avoid him, but I always end up sinking deeper and deeper. To make matters worse, my boyfriend is now as loyal than ever. Our bedroom life is exciting partly because I fantasize with doing it with other men when I'm doing it with him. It's not that I'm not aroused by my boyfriend, but thinking about multiple partners or other men makes it even more exciting. 3 months after my boyfriend came back to me, I found out that I was pregnant. I was sure it was his because I used protection with the other man. However, throughout my pregnancy, I continued to see the other man on the side till I gave birth.